The restaurant's private dining room felt suffocating despite its high ceilings and elegant decor. My father's 60th birthday celebration was in full swing, crystal glasses clinking as relatives swapped stories about his long, successful law career. I sat quietly at the far end of the table, picking at my overpriced steak, doing my best to become invisible. It was a skill I'd perfected over the years. "And here's to my daughter, Emma," Dad announced, raising his glass. Recently made partner at Anderson and Mitchell, following in her old man's footsteps. My sister stood, basking in the glow of approval that radiated from every corner of the room. Her designer dress probably cost more than most people thought I made in a month. She'd always been the golden child, the one who did everything right. Prestigious law school. Perfect marriage. All the right connections. "Thanks, Daddy," she beamed. "I learned from the best." I took another sip of wine, remembering the endless chorus of, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" Every choice I'd made, engineering instead of law, launching a tech startup instead of joining a firm, living modestly instead of flaunting wealth, was treated as failure. "And then there's Sophie," my mother added with a tight smile. "Still doing her, what do you call it, dear? That computer thing." "Artificial intelligence development," I corrected softly. "My company specializes in AI solutions for—" Yes, Dad waved dismissively. "Playing with computers. At least one of my children understands the value of a real career." His words stung, but I kept my expression neutral. If only they knew. If only they realized that my computer thing had already transformed entire industries. That the modest office they mocked was nothing more than a carefully constructed front. "Did you hear about Emma's new house in the Hamptons?" Mom gushed to anyone within earshot. 5 bedrooms, private beach access. "It's nothing really," Emma said with false modesty. "Just a little weekend place. Though, Sophie, if you ever need a break from your startup, you're welcome to visit, when we're not there, of course." Polite laughter rippled around the table. I thought of my own properties, the Manhattan penthouse, the villa in Tuscany, the private island in the Pacific. All hidden under layers of LLCs, invisible to their narrow eyes. "A toast," Uncle Robert declared, standing with his glass raised. "To James Morrison, who raised one hell of a successful daughter. And Sophie," my aunt added half-heartedly, "she's trying her best." I caught my father's expression. That grimace. The one he always wore when someone mentioned me. "Well," he said, straightening his tie, "at least one of my children isn't a disappointment. Emma understands what it means to build a real career. She's made the Morrison name mean something in the legal world." The room fell into an uneasy silence. Even for him, that was cruel. "James," my mother whispered. "Maybe that's a bit much." "No, Margaret, it needs to be said." He turned directly to me. "Sophie, you had every advantage, every opportunity. And what did you do? Waste it all playing entrepreneur in some tiny office downtown. Do you know what people say? They ask me what went wrong with my other daughter." The crystal stem trembled slightly as I set my glass down. My voice was quieter than I intended, but it carried across the silence. "What went wrong?" "Yes. While your sister is closing multimillion-dollar deals, you what? Writing computer code in a basement." I thought about the contract waiting on my desk. About the revolutionary AI system my company had just finished, the one about to reshape global finance. About the 9-figure acquisition offers I had turned down. "Dad," Emma said gently, ever the peacemaker. "Sophie's doing fine. She's independent at least. Not everyone can handle the pressure of real corporate success." Independent. That was Emma, cutting me down while pretending to lift me up. Independent. Dad scoffed. "Is that what we're calling failure now? When I was her age, I was already making waves. Emma was already on track to partner. And Sophie? 35 years old, with nothing to show but a delusion of being the next Steve Jobs." I pulled out my phone, fingers hovering over the banking app. 4 years, I'd kept my success hidden, for privacy, for the right moment. Watching him gloat, watching Emma smirk, I realized this was it. "You want to talk about success, Dad?" I rose slowly. "About legacy? About what the Morrison name means?" "Sophie," my mother hissed, "don't make a scene. It's your father's birthday. Yes, I said firmly. And I think it's time he got his gift, the truth. Emma laughed softly. We don't need another one of your homemade computer programs, Sophie. Though I'm sure it's very creative. Without another word, I turned my phone around. My account balance glowed on the screen, $47,282,465.19. The room froze. Somewhere to my left, a glass shattered. My father's voice cracked. That's impossible. Is it? I swiped to another screen, my company's latest valuation. Morrison Technologies, better known to the world as MT Solutions, the AI company making headlines for revolutionizing finance. Current valuation, $4.1 billion. Emma's polished composure shattered. MT Solutions? But they're the ones who turned down Google and Microsoft's offers. I smiled. Turned them down because the offers were insultingly low. My father's face had gone pale. You're lying. This is some trick. I pulled up the company's public filings. Check for yourself. Though you won't find my name easily, I value my privacy. The same privacy that let me build an empire while you all mocked my computer thing. Emma was already frantically searching her phone, her hands trembling as headlines filled her screen. $4 billion, I continued calmly. That's what your failure daughter's company is worth. That tiny office downtown? Just a front. Our real headquarters takes up 3 floors in the Sterling Tower. You know, the building Emma's firm has been trying to get into? I own it. The silence was absolute. Relatives frozen mid-sip, faces drained of smugness. Why didn't you tell us? My mother finally whispered. I laughed softly. When have you ever wanted to hear about my work? When have you ever shown even the slightest interest? I turned to my father, whose birthday celebration had unraveled into a reckoning. You wanted to talk about legacy? About making the Morrison name mean something? In the tech world, in the places that matter, it does. Just not because of you. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect from a family whose entire hierarchy was built on appearances. The expensive wine sat untouched. Crystal glasses dripped with condensation. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. Emma recovered first, her legal training kicking in. MT Solutions, she said slowly. They're the ones who developed the AI trading system, the one major banks are implementing worldwide. She turned toward me, reassessing everything she thought she knew about her little sister. Among other things, I replied, taking my seat again. Our healthcare division is quite promising, too. We're revolutionizing diagnostic procedures in ways that will save millions of lives. But my father was still struggling to form complete sentences. The Sterling Tower, that's a $300 million property. Was a $300 million property, I corrected. Worth considerably more now, after renovations. Would you like to see the deed? My mother's social instincts finally kicked in. She reached for my hand across the table, her diamond bracelet catching the light. Darling, this is wonderful. Why didn't you tell us? We could have helped. Made introductions. I pulled my hand away. Introductions? Like when you told the Hamiltons not to waste their time investing in my hobby? Or when Dad warned his clients to stay away from my amateur operation? The color drained from her face as the memory hit. 3 years ago, the Hamiltons had been interested in early-stage investment. My parents had convinced them I wasn't worth the risk. We were trying to protect them, my father muttered weakly. And you, from inevitable failure. Protect them. I laughed. Those who did invest in my inevitable failure saw their money multiply by 800% in 18 months. The Hamiltons recently begged to buy shares at current market value. I turned them down. Uncle Robert leaned forward, his earlier dismissiveness replaced by sharp interest. Sophie, about my son's tech startup. No, I cut him off firmly. I'm not interested in investment opportunities from family. Not anymore. But we're family, Emma protested. Surely that counts for something. Does it? I asked coldly. Like when you convinced the partners at Anderson and Mitchell not to consider my company's software proposal, looking out for their best interests, I believe you called it. She flushed, guilt flickering in her eyes. That proposal, rejected at her urging, had gone to a rival firm. A rival now dominating the legal tech sector using my systems. I didn't know, she whispered. No, you didn't. None of you did. Because none of you cared to know. I stood, dropping my napkin onto the table. You were all so sure you knew what success looked like, a corner office, a partnership, a house in the Hamptons. You never considered that real innovation, real, world-changing success, might look different. Sit down, my father barked, finding his authoritative voice again. We need to discuss this as a family. Your company, these, opportunities. Opportunities. I raised an eyebrow. You mean now that you know I'm worth billions, suddenly my computer thing is worth discussing? Don't be difficult, Sophie, my mother pleaded. Your father's just trying to understand. We all are. It's a lot to take in. I looked around the table, at the aunts, uncles, cousins who had pitied poor Sophie while worshipping Emma's conventional success. Now their eyes glittered with calculation, mentally rewriting every interaction we'd ever had. You know what's funny? I said, picking up my purse. I used to dream about this moment, about proving you wrong. But now? Your approval doesn't matter anymore. It stopped mattering a long time ago. Sophie, please. Emma stood. Let's talk about this. Maybe there are synergies between our firms. Synergies. I laughed. Now you want to explore business opportunities? What happened to my amateur operation? Enough. My father snapped, pushing back his chair. I won't have you ruining my birthday with this spectacle. If you've built something successful, fine. But your attitude. My attitude. I cut him off, my voice sharp. You mean like your attitude 5 minutes ago when you called me a failure in front of everyone? Or the past 7 years, when you couldn't even bother visiting my office? He fell silent. And in that silence, I saw something I'd never seen before, uncertainty. For the first time in my life, my father wasn't sure he was right. I pulled an envelope from my purse and placed it on the table. Happy birthday, Dad. Inside, you'll find something interesting, the deed to your law firm's building. Empty Solutions bought it last month through a subsidiary. Consider this notice. Your rent doubles next quarter. Market rates. You understand? The room erupted. My mother gasped. Emma fumbled for her phone. My father just stared at the envelope like it might burn him. You can't do this, he croaked. Actually, I can. It's called good business sense. Isn't that what you always taught me? I smiled. Don't worry, I'm not being vindictive. You're welcome to stay at the new rate. Or move to another building in the city. Though, I paused. You may want to check who owns those first. I turned to leave, but Emma caught my arm. Wait. At least let me take you to lunch next week. Sister to sister. I gently removed her hand. I'm afraid I'm busy. Finalizing the acquisition of Anderson and Mitchell's largest client. You know, the one whose contract you convinced them to reject. Her face drained of color. Don't worry, I added softly. I'm sure the partners will understand. After all, it's just business. Sophie, my mother called as I reached the door. What do you want from us? I paused, considering. For years, I wanted your approval. Your support. Your respect. Now. I turned, meeting their desperate faces one last time. Now I don't want anything from you. That's the beauty of success. It shows you what matters, and what doesn't. I left them in chaos. My phone buzzed non-stop. Emma, Mom, Dad, aunts, uncles, all suddenly remembering my number. By the time I reached Sterling Tower, my real office, 3 floors high with sweeping city views, I had deleted them all. Everything okay, Ms. Morrison? James, my driver, asked as he pulled away from the restaurant. Better than okay, I replied. I just gave my father his birthday gift, the truth. Later, in my office, I skimmed the latest acquisition reports. Empty Solutions was on the verge of another breakthrough, one that would reshape the industry again. My net worth would likely double by year's end. A knock interrupted my thoughts. Sarah, my assistant, stepped in, looking uneasy. Your sister Emma is in the lobby. She says she won't leave until you see her. I glanced at the security feed. Emma, still in her designer dress, looking far less composed. Tell her my schedule's full, I said, turning back to my work. She's welcome to book through proper channels, of course. Sarah nodded and left. I watched Emma's face contort in frustration before she stormed out. Looking out at the skyline, I thought about success and failure, about approval and validation. For years, their narrow definition of success had made me feel small. Now I knew better. True success isn't proving others wrong. It's proving yourself right. I sent one final group text before powering my phone down. Thank you for teaching me that failure is in the eye of the beholder. Rest assured, the rent increase is nothing personal. Just good business, like you always taught me. And Emma, your firm's biggest client sends their regards. They'll be working with my competitors now, using MT Solutions' new legal AI platform. Then I turned back to my desk, opened the latest proposal, and smiled. Empires aren't built by waiting for family approval. They are built by those willing to be underestimated. And I had been underestimated for the very last time.